Since the earliest centuries, the story of Mary, the mother of Jesus, has crossed generations, inspiring millions of people around the world. She was not just a humble young woman from Nazareth, chosen by God to bring the Savior into the world. She became an eternal example of faith, obedience, and courage. In a time when women had no voice, Mary stood out, not through weapons, wealth, or earthly titles, but through the strength of her faith. And even today, her life continues to echo as a call to trust in God amid life's uncertainties. When we look at Mary, we see more than just a historical figure. We see an ordinary young woman who lived in a simple village, with dreams, expectations, and probably many fears. But when the angel Gabriel appeared to announce that she would be the mother of the Son of God, Mary responded with words that still resound today. "I am the servant of the Lord. May it be done to me according to your word." This phrase sums up the heart of true faith, trusting fully, even without understanding all the details, surrendering to God's purpose, even when faced with the unknown. And we cannot ignore the weight of that decision. Mary knew she could be rejected by her family, by Joseph, by society itself. She knew she could be seen as unfaithful, carrying shame and accusations. Yet she still said yes. That yes changed the course of history. Mary's example reminds us that true faith is not the absence of fear, but the choice to trust God in spite of fear. How many times in our lives do we face situations where we, Dan T, have all the answers? How often does the future seem uncertain, and saying yes to God feels risky? It is in those very moments that Mary's example teaches us. We don't need all the human guarantees when we have the certainty of God's promises. During the life of Jesus, Mary appears at key moments that teach us about practical faith. At the wedding in Cana, when the wine ran out, she didn't try to fix the problem herself. She simply looked at the servants and said, "Do whatever he tells you." That simple and direct trust reveals her conviction. Mary knew who Jesus was, and she knew that all it took was obedience to him. What an example for us. So often we try to control every situation, to find solutions in our own strength. But Mary teaches us that the key is to obey the word of Christ. And how can we not remember Calvary? Mary, standing at the foot of the cross, watching her son suffer and die unjustly, could have rebelled, could have cried out, "God, why?" But even in the midst of pain, she remained firm. That image shows us that faith is not only about believing when everything is going well. Faith is standing tall even when your heart is shattered. Faith is trusting God even when we don't understand the reason for our trials. Mary teaches us that faith is not only about receiving miracles, but also about enduring pain while trusting that God has a greater purpose. How many people today carry heavy crosses, facing sickness, loss, or family crises, and yet remain firm in their faith? These people are inspired by the same spirit that lived in Mary, the certainty that, even through tears, God remains faithful. And we must not forget that Mary was not perfect, not divine in her essence. She was an ordinary woman who chose to believe. That makes her example even more powerful. If Mary, a humble young woman from Nazareth, could become an instrument of God, it means each one of us can too. Faith does not depend on titles, social status, or intelligence. It depends on a heart willing to trust. Today, the world tells us to rely on our own strength, our resources, human logic. But Mary invites us to trust in something greater. When she said, "Let it be done to me according to your word," she showed us that true greatness is not found in controlling the future, but in surrendering to God's purpose. Mary's example also shows us the power of humility. She never sought recognition for herself. Her mission was always to point to Jesus. She teaches us that true faith does not seek applause, but seeks to serve. And in a world where social media feeds vanity, comparison, and competition, Mary's life reminds us that being great in God's eyes is more important than being great in the world's eyes. As we reflect on Mary's life, we are challenged to ask, what has been our response to God? Have we lived in obedience, even when we don't understand everything? Have we remained steadfast, even when pain knocks on our door? Have we been humble enough to point to Christ instead of seeking our own glory? Mary remains an inspiration because her story did not end 2,000 years ago. She lives on in every person who chooses to trust God, in every mother who prays for her children, in every young person who chooses obedience to God, even when the world offers another path, in every Christian who remains firm in the struggles of life. The example of Mary for Christian faith today is clear. She teaches us to trust, to obey, to remain steadfast, and to serve. And these 4 attitudes are still essential for anyone who desires to live a true faith. And maybe you are asking yourself right now, how can I live this kind of faith in my daily life? The answer is found in Mary's own life. Start by saying yes to God. Say yes even when you don't understand everything. Say yes even when you are afraid. Say yes even when it seems impossible. Because when you say yes, God transforms your life, and through your obedience, He can also transform the lives of many others. Mary reminds us that a heart surrendered to God can change history. Through her, salvation came into the world, and through you, God can bring hope, comfort, and transformation into the lives of many. All it takes is to trust, to obey, to remain, to serve. So next time you face a difficulty, remember Mary at the foot of the cross. Next time you fear the future, remember the young girl from Nazareth saying, "Let it be done to me according to your word." Next time you try to solve everything on your own, remember her at Cana, pointing to Jesus. Do whatever He tells you. Mary's example crosses the centuries and reaches us today as a beacon of faith. May we follow her path, not to exalt her above what the Bible teaches, but to learn from her simple and extraordinary life. May we, like Mary, live a faith that transforms, that endures, that always points to Christ. And so, her life becomes more than an ancient story. It becomes a living invitation to each of us, the invitation to fully trust, to obey wholeheartedly, to remain steadfast even in the midst of pain, and to serve humbly in everything we do. This is the example of Mary for Christian faith today. If this message spoke to you, share this video, give it a like, and subscribe to Giants of Faith. Here we continue to explore the great mysteries of the Bible, bringing reflections that strengthen faith and reveal that, in the face of the greatest challenges, God is always greater.